Hello everybody, it is the FPS tester here. Today we're going to be taking a look at 7 Days to Die version 2.0, which was released a couple of days ago. The stable version of 2.0 is going to be available on the 30th of this month, I believe, but we're going to be taking a look at the performance of the game with the RTX 3060 Ti today. So let's jump on in. Before I go ahead and show you the rest of the settings, I do want to quickly say that I do have the latest drivers for the 3060 Ti. We're going to be starting this at 1080p. I have DLSS, which is new with version 2.0. This is the first version of 7 Days to Die that's ever had DLSS. I've got it set to ultra quality right now, and I'll talk about this a bit more later. I have played 7 Days to Die for about 8 hours so far on this version, so I have had quite a bit of playtime with the DLSS, and there's certainly issues which we'll talk about. Here's the settings that we're going in with. They're set to custom. It's pretty much almost maximum settings. The only things I've really got turned down is SS reflections a little bit. That's down to high, and the shadows are set to medium. You can actually go ahead and lower the shadow quality and shadows down to low, and it doesn't affect things too much in terms of visuals, and you'll see quite a lot more performance. And you can turn it off completely to see incredible performance increase. And the SS reflections, once again, as well, if you set this to the ultra, you really don't see any difference. And again, also high compared to medium doesn't really change too much either in the visuals. But everything else pretty much max settings, and the only other thing that we need to check is the dynamic mesh, which the only thing that's really important here for us is the mesh distance, which is set to 1000, and I'm just going to leave it on 1000 for now. If you want to know what all of these settings do, I'll leave a video linked in the top right for you. You can click on that card. You can also click on it in the description, where I went through 7 Days to Die a couple of months ago and went through all of the settings and what they do visually and how much performance impact they have. So if you want to just check that, like most optimized settings, go ahead and check that. Most of the settings are going to be the exact same on there. The only real difference is now we have DLSS. So let's go ahead and jump into the game. Alright, and so I've just loaded in, and I'm going to go ahead and put the creative mode on real quick here. The FPS is going to drop. Apparently clicking escape is giving us a huge FPS drop. So I'll just reset the 1% lows real quick. So this is what the game looks like here with these settings. You can see in the forest we are getting around 180 FPS actually, which is kind of insane. We've never really seen performance like this in 7 Days to Die, so it is nice that the game is becoming more optimized, but you can kind of tell, I think, that the grass seems to be also spawning in much closer. I think this is how 7 Days to Die is becoming more optimized. They're just making the pop-ins for a lot of things much closer. But yeah, at 1080p, using almost maximum settings here with the DLSS in the forest, 170, which is just insane. I will definitely say that the performance of 7 Days to Die is currently at the best it has ever been. 7 Days to Die has never ran this well, particularly for the CPU performance. The game is definitely becoming more GPU intensive as they update the graphics, but in terms of CPU performance, it's never been better, basically. And even if you don't have a very good GPU, you can obviously just turn settings down a little bit. So this POI is pretty cool. It appears we've got some sort of lumber mill. This is definitely new. I've never seen this. So it's pretty cool. So what I want to quickly... Oh my. What I want to quickly do is... I need to actually enable dev guns. I can't remember which one. This is the insta-kill pistol, which is what I want. Get rid of the vultures real quick. So what I want to go ahead and do real quick, because clearly this is running really, really well, is I'm going to load up the menu, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn DLSS to native AA. We're going to see how much performance we lose. So we did lose around around 30 FPS. So yeah, we lost around 30 FPS, which means we almost lost 20% performance roughly, just by turning that off. So that's quite a difference that's making, because in terms of visual quality, you really can't tell the DLSS is on. And now we're getting like 190. So if I look here, we're getting 190 right there. And if I go ahead and turn that DLSS off, or to native AA rather, 160. So we're losing about 15% performance roughly there. for honestly almost no visual quality loss, which is great, especially inside of the more intensive situations, which we'll get to in just a moment. Now, there is one major issue with the DLSS currently, and that is insane ghosting. I'll see if I can show you it here, but I've seen a lot of ghosting with the DLSS. It appears to be very, very random when the ghosting happens, but it certainly is happening. Am I going to see any ghosting? I'm not sure if I can get the ghosting to trigger, but do believe me, there's a lot of ghosting right now, or what appears to be ghosting. It usually happens when you swing a tool as well, so let me get a pickaxe real quick, and we'll see if we can, not a pickaxe, but we'll get a stone axe. A stone axe is very easy to see it. We'll just kill this guy real quick. So I'll see if I can demonstrate the AA problem. No, it doesn't appear that I can. But yeah, when I was playing last night with my friend for about 4 hours or so, he actually turned his DLSS off because there was a lot of ghosting. If you've played the update, you'll know what I'm talking about. Honestly, it might just be an issue when your FPS starts to get low, because I'm not able to trigger the ghosting. But yeah, it's pretty prevalent. But new trees. All right, never seen this texture before. We got new trees as well. Anyways. So yeah, the performance here at 1080p, at least in the forest, there's no issues. And you could go higher than this. You could set the shadows to absolute maximum, but I'm just going to tell you right now, like, it makes almost no difference. And you do start to lose a lot of FPS. So what we're going to do is we're going to teleport to the wasteland. I can't spell skyscraper, guys. We're going to go to the wasteland, and we're going to see what the performance is like here. Now, I'm going to have to reset my 1% lows, of course. So let's just run around a little bit here. So yeah, even in the wasteland, the performance is quite good. Now, I will say that if you're hosting a game as well, if you want to host a game for your friends to play, I've been hosting the game that my friend and I have been playing. We haven't bothered to get a dedicated server yet or set one up on my own servers or anything, so I've just been local hosting off my own computer while I play. And even when we're separated and we're doing stuff, the performance of the client-based servers seems to be much better as well, at least when you're only playing co-op. And of course that depends on your RAM and your CPU pretty much, but yeah, it's been pretty good. So in the wasteland as well, because we haven't really been in the wasteland yet because of the new update, you don't really need to go to the wasteland straight away anymore. But yeah, the performance in the wasteland is pretty good. You can see the FPS is still quite jittery. There is still quite a lot of frame dropping going on, and especially when you're on like a motorbike or something like that, you do feel sometimes the world does feel a little bit stuttery when you're loading into new areas. If you're riding on a bike and stuff, I've experienced that. So that still exists. Like, that's not gone. So we're going to go ahead and go into this POI, which is one of the more intensive ones. Let's just go in here. We're going to see the performance, because usually in these big POIs, your performance tanks quite a bit. Just because of all the shadows and reflections. But no, we're still able to get 100 frames. You can see my GPU utilization is dropping every now and then, because the game just is incredibly intensive on the CPU. Yeah, it drops quite regularly to the 80% range. There's a lot of zombies here now. One thing they do seem to have optimized is how well the game handles zombies. So, which might seem insane, but before, the game used to be... I'm just going to get these to shut up, because they're very annoying. But the game, before, if you had this many zombies, you would be seeing significantly lower FPS. So they've done something to optimize the zombies in the last couple of updates, which is nice to see. Zombies are behaving quite well in terms of performance. So we're going to go ahead and crank this up to 1440p right now. And if you're wondering what this is going to be like on a horde night, honestly, it's not much different. It's the performance, like I said, horde night used to be really intensive because the zombies weren't that well optimized, it would seem. But these days, the horde nights are honestly less intensive than coming into a tier 5 POI. So I don't feel the need to test a horde night because, like I said, the zombies have been a lot more optimized. and now it's pretty much not as intensive as like a POI is anymore, in my experience at least. So even at 1440p here, we are still completely fine in the wasteland in a tier 5 POI. We're still at that 70s to 80 FPS range. And so yeah, 1440p seems to also be fine here inside of the POI. I'd say 75, 70 FPS is going to be fine for most people for a game like 7 Days to Die. For example, I play at 144 Hz, and in 7 Days to Die, I have no problems playing at the 70 something FPS range, because it's just not as quick of, it's not a fast-paced FPS game, you know what I mean? It's a survival game, and you don't really need more than 70 to 80 FPS to comfortably play this, you know, and have a pleasant experience. And I think also because 7 Days to Die's performance has been so terrible for so long, I think many of us have probably become very accustomed to playing this game at suboptimal FPS. And so 70 to 80 FPS feels like 144 Hz anyways, if that makes any kind of sense to you. So it really, you don't need a lot of frames. Now, I'm going to go ahead and turn the DLSS off, and we're going to see what this is like here without the DLSS. So 1440p max settings nearly without the DLSS, and you can see here that it is making a big difference. So the DLSS is absolutely crushing it inside of this place, because without it we are at that 50-55 FPS range. Inside this POI, 40 FPS, high 40s, which is pretty bad. And the reason why I'm staying in this room is because there's a lot of reflections going on in here, and a lot of shadows and stuff, and so that's why I like coming into this room. But yeah, you absolutely do need the DLSS if you wanted to play these kind of settings in here. And just out of curiosity, how much would we get with quality? Because we were using ultra quality, which is almost unnoticeable, and this is the quality DLSS, which honestly isn't getting more frames. It feels really smooth at 70 FPS, guys, like really, really good. So 1440p inside this POI at the quality DLSS. And I just want to quickly say, can you guys see the DLSS? Can you see it at all? Because I can't. Like, do you guys see ghosting, or do you see just weird things going on? Even with the zombies movement, do you guys see anything happening? Because I don't. The one thing I will say, like I said before, is that the zombies, there's a lot of ghosting with the DLSS, and I'm going to see if I can show you it here. Like, it's very visible. It's not visible right now. I don't know why it's not happening now. It's not. Maybe they fixed it, actually. Maybe there was an update last night and it's been fixed. I'm not 100% sure, guys. But there was a problem with the DLSS before. It may have been fixed. Honestly, there may have been an update. I can't remember the exact version that it was. Right now it's V2.0. I'll have to check the version that we played last night, because we took a couple of screenshots and stuff. But they may have fixed it literally last night. So that's a good thing if they have. I can't seem to show you the ghosting issue. So maybe they fixed it. What I'm going to do is we'll try an even lower DLSS. Right. So now we're playing on the balanced DLSS, which I'm not even sure what resolution that is technically. It might be like close to 720p technically. I didn't know that their mouths actually open that wide now. That's kind of freaky. But can you see that we're playing at such a tiny resolution technically? Because I believe balanced DLSS is around 720p or 1600 by 900 or something. I'm not 100% sure. Like, honestly, it's not that bad. I don't think it looks that bad. Like, it looks softer. You can certainly tell that the visuals are softer, and you do lose quality as you walk away. But like, I'm just gonna quickly turn the DLSS back up to native, or the resolution back up to native, and I want to see if you guys can truly tell that big of a difference. It's not that substantial, is it? It's really not that substantial at all. So we'll go ahead and turn that back to ultra quality. We're going to go back down to 1080p here. And what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm actually going to put everything to absolute maximum, because I know there's going to be some people out there that are going to want to see this. So we're going to turn this all to maximum. We're going to leave motion blur off because, yeah, I don't like motion blur. So we're turning all that to maximum. And the FPS is still completely fine. We did definitely lose frames because out here before we were at like 130, right? If I remember correct, at the settings we were at 1080p. We were at around 130 FPS out here. We come inside this building, we're still at 90 frames. So we're at a point where you really can start to turn the settings in 7 Days to Die at absolute maximum. The Fun Pimps have been doing a great job clearly with optimization now. 90 FPS is really solid. We are at absolute maximum settings here at 1080p with DLSS, and we're sitting comfortable. And by the way, you do not have to restart the game to apply shadows, okay? I just want to quickly say that because I know some people may be thinking like, oh, the shadows probably didn't apply then because the FPS is so good. I'm just going to go ahead and quickly turn the shadows back down and you will see the FPS go up. So we'll turn them back down to medium. And we'll turn the SS reflections back down to high. And yeah, you can see that the FPS did increase, not as much as I thought actually. We've only gone up to 115 or so, so about 30 more FPS, not as high as I thought it was. But this is also why I don't turn the shadows up to the ultra settings, because 30 FPS loss from 120 or 110 down to like 90, we're losing like 20 to 25% FPS for almost no visual difference. Like, I just want you guys to like look there, and I want you to see if you can tell the shadows like changing that much. Is it that significant to lose 20 to 25% frame rate? For me, not really. Did you see anything? Is there any noticeable difference at all? Is there? Not for me. So I can't justify that 20 to 25% FPS loss for no reason. And I also want to quickly say that in previous versions of 7 Days to Die, if you went from like medium graphics or medium shadows to ultra, you would just tank 50% of your frame rate, just gone, basically, in older versions of 7 Days to Die, which is why I've always made it a habit to just keep my shadows at the medium settings at the maximum, because you literally would just lose all your frame rate if you went higher than that. So we'll go a bit higher in this POI. So now we're at 70 FPS. Okay. And also you can see there that my RAM, I've not spoken about that really, but my RAM usage is at about 20 gigs. So if you're still rocking a 16 gig system, you may, honestly, for 7 Days to Die, it's probably worth upgrading to 32. It does make a big difference in games like this, because, yeah, like I said, I'm using 20 gigs right now. But it's definitely worth upgrading if you can. RAM is one of the cheapest upgrades you can make to your system, and it's also one of the upgrades that can make a huge difference in these really RAM-hungry games, basically. So, yeah, definitely consider upgrading your RAM if you are still rocking 16 gigs. Definitely worth the upgrade. I will say as well, because everything seems really good right now, like everything's running really nicely and stuff like that. But I will say, when I was playing with my friend, when we've been looting POIs and stuff, there's still the occasional issues where you just lose a bunch of frame rate. In certain POIs, my friend and I have been doing tier 1 and tier 2 POIs right now, questing together. And sometimes when we go to some of these houses, basically, and we go inside at night and we're doing the quests at night and stuff, I do drop down to that 50 FPS range now. Occasionally, and it's not every POI and it's not all the time. It just happens occasionally where I just drop down to 50 something FPS when normally I'd be playing at about 90 FPS at 1440p. So I do want to make you aware of that the performance seems really good right now, but there's certainly still issues. This is a completely new POI too. This is or completely new, which is awesome. Actually, this might have been no, I think this was available previous patch as well. Yeah, it was. But yeah, even though it seems really good right now, there's still definitely some issues with some of the POIs. I'm going to see if I can try and demonstrate that for you here. So I'm just going to quickly go back up to 1440p. Definitely not going to test 4K because, let's be honest, no one's got 4K card with this, or 4K monitor probably. So we're just going to do that. Everything's at ultra still, and actually with at 1440p and everything at ultra in the wasteland, you can see that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen, Chief. We're at 50 something frame rate, which doesn't feel anywhere near as smooth as 70. So yeah, definitely at 1440p, you're not going to be playing at absolute maximum settings. So I'm just going to bump these back down because, like I said, you can't see it. You can't see it. Actually, I'm still at about 60. Okay. Yeah, about 60 FPS here in the wasteland right now. 65. It's smooth enough. It's 60 frames. It's good for 7 days. But what I want to do is I want to... How do you... Can you still do this? There used to be a way you could just TP to the middle of the map. I don't know this new menu. I've not actually had a look at it yet, really. There used to be a way where you could just... You used to be able to put coordinates in to just TP to coordinates right here. It appears that has gone. It's probably another menu. It's probably here somewhere, and I'm just not seeing it. Right, we'll just do this. That will spawn me back in the forest. The reason I want to go to the forest is I want to go to the trader. I could probably just search the trader and teleport there, to be completely honest with you. Let's respawn. Oh, we're right back in the same spot. Well, that's not great. Let's open the POI. Probably can just put trader in. Trader. Yeah, you can literally just TP to the traders. Did not realize that. So we are going to want to go to the Pine Forest. Trader Rect. I did not mean to do that. And then we're just going to go into some of these POIs because, like I said, some of these POIs, the performance is it's a little bit hit or miss at night, at least. So we're going to make it night, and then we're going to go into some of these POIs and see if I can show you the performance loss. We'll just go into this one. We'll set it to night. Maybe there's more reflections and stuff and shadows at night. I have no idea. Honestly, I don't know anymore. So I don't pay attention to this enough. There we go. That's it's close to enough night. That'll do. So now it's night. And we're just going to jump into one of these POIs. Yeah, look at this. Down to 40, 50 FPS. So, like I said, even though performance is better, as soon as you come into some of these POIs, performance can be a little bit hit or miss. And it's funny because I'm actually losing more frame rate in here sometimes than when I'm inside a tier 5 POI, which was just... That would never happen. Back in the day, obviously, tier 5 POI was like the final boss of frame rate for the longest time in 7 days. It was well known, like if you wanted to go into a tier 5 POI, no matter what PC you've got, you need to lower your settings down, basically, if you want to have any kind of playable frame rate. But yeah, it seems fine right there, actually. And we're going to another POI just to demonstrate it again a little bit. Remember, this is 1440p, so take it with a grain of salt, I guess. And then we're just going to come into this POI. Never seen this one either, I believe. There's a new POI too. There's a lot of new POIs in this update. Very, very cool. My friend and I have been playing this and enjoying it a lot because of the changes to the game, and also it just feels fresh, you know. There's a ton of POIs we've never seen before. Because for us, 7 Days to Die veterans, as weird as it sounds to say that, it's a little bit stale. You know what I mean? The game is a little bit stale because of how much we know and like how many of the POIs we've been in like 100 times. So we know where all the zombies are and all that sort of stuff. So to have all these new POIs that we do not know is really refreshing. But also, the skill changes to the skill books and just all that sort of stuff is really nice and refreshing. Usually I'm against change, but in this scenario, the game definitely does feel a lot better. But yeah, that's going to do it for today. You can play 7 Days to Die with the 3060 Ti very comfortably if you enabled DLSS. Honestly, I wouldn't even bother looking at the FSR or anything if you've got an RTX card, because you may as well just use the DLSS. That's why I'm not testing it here. So yeah, you're going to be able to play this game now very comfortably. And in terms of your CPU requirements, you still need a decent CPU to play 7 Days to Die, but it's definitely becoming more and more optimized. And it's nice to see now that the game is becoming like GPU bound, because for the longest time, for most of 7 Days to Die's life, it's been CPU bound for like pretty much everybody. So we're getting to a point where it's not only becoming more graphically intensive, but it's also becoming more CPU optimized. So yeah, you're not so screwed over if you don't have such a powerful CPU, because you know, if you're CPU bound, you're very limited on what you can do to increase your performance. If you're GPU bound, well, you can turn settings down at least, and so there's things you can do with that. So it's nice to see that. But yeah, if you've got an RTX 3060 Ti or a similar GPU, you're going to now be able to play 7 Days to Die at pretty much maximum settings, honestly, if you don't count the shadows and the SS reflections not being turned all the way up, because it makes almost no difference anyways. You're going to be able to play it at 1080p completely fine, and 1440p pretty much completely fine. Thanks for watching today's video, guys. I hope you found some use out of this commentary style benchmark. And yeah, until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.